Hello, and welcome to your very own Tech and More. So, this is going to be the third video of the playlist that is top test automation interview questions with answers. So, in this video, we are going to continue discussing more tech related questions in Selenium WebDriver. So, without wasting any more time, let's start. The first question, or rather, the first question of this video, or more of a continuation, is what is the difference between driver.quit and driver.close methods? So, uh, guys, close and quit, they are somewhere, they are used a lot in every of your script, because once you open a browser, you run your test, you have to close that, right? Now, driver.close is a place or is a case wherein you simply, maybe, there are two or three instances of browsers open, so you basically close one of it, and then the other two are remaining. Or even if one is open and you just press on the close button here, right, then in that case the proper instance is not going to get closed. That is, the application is not going to get closed. That is what happens in driver.close. Whereas in driver.quit, it is similar to the action where, that is, when you click on Chrome and you click on quit Google Chrome, right? So again, driver.close is the similar or is the parallel of a manual action wherein you just press on the close button, you close the window, you close the current instance. Whereas the parallel action of parallel manual action of driver.quit is wherein you basically click on Chrome and close the application, right? Then let's have a look at the other pointers. So in driver.close, it says even if there are multiple windows or tabs opened in the browser, driver.close method will not close all the windows or tabs present in the browser. Okay. Whereas in driver.quit, as we discussed, it will close all the browser windows and it will run the quit the application. So all in all, after calling driver.quit method, further actions on WebDriver will be through exceptions. What it means to say is, let's suppose you called driver.quit and after that you call some other method, right? Maybe you call driver.get or driver.navigate. It's going to give you an exception. The reason being, imagine that you have the Chrome application quit, the Chrome application is not working, and then you try to perform some action. Does it make sense? It doesn't. The reason being that there is no application to start with, right? So that is why driver.quit and driver.close are to be used as per the requirement. They are to be used very, very intelligently. And if you ask me, in almost all the test cases, you're going to use driver.quit, because if after every test case, you have to quit the browser and then start again, right? So yeah, that's the difference between driver.close and driver.quit. Now, the next one is how to capture screenshots during test execution. This is a critical point. So we have seen that a lot of times when you're running your executions or you're doing your testing, you have to have the screenshot, especially when the test cases fail, right? So there has to be a way in automation that captures your screenshot. So manually, what you would do, you would go and somehow just take a screenshot or a recording. So the same thing happens here as well. That is, you have to call this. First of all, you have to create an object, and then you have to call this method, which is dot get screenshot as, right? So if this question is asked to you in the interview and it says how to capture screenshots during test execution, you will say, I will be using the method get screenshot as. That suffices. If you're able to answer this, you're good to go. Okay. Then the next question, what are the different types of navigation commands there are? So there are numerous navigation commands, and just changing the topic a little bit here. If you want to understand the automation methods better, the the best way is to understand it by correlating it with a manual action, right? So if I go back and if I talk about quit, close, or maybe the screenshot method, if you want to remember them or if you want to understand them better, then you always correlate it with a manual action. Okay, if I have to close the browser window, if I have to end the application, if I have to take a screenshot, so whatever I'm doing manually, these methods are helping me doing the same using automation, right? So again, coming to the question, navigate dot back, navigate dot forward, navigate dot refresh, and navigate dot to. So these are four methods that you have to know, which will be very helpful to you. So I am going to go to google.com, right? Now, when I click on this back button, if I have to go to the back page or to the previous page, the more technical word is the previous page, I will use navigate dot back. Simple. That's all. If you use navigate dot back, you're going to go to the previous page, right? And then if I again have to, okay, first let's go backwards. And now if I have to go to the forward page, I click on this. The automation equivalent is navigate dot forward. It's as simple as that. Navigate.refresh basically allows the user to refresh the current web page by reloading all the web elements, which is true. So basically, when you press Command R, this is something that you're doing manually. The automation way to do it is navigate.refresh. You use this command. And then navigate.to is basically it takes the user to a new web page in a new window, depending on the URL specified. So basically, when you have to navigate to a new web page in a new window. So you have to open a new window of the browser and then you have to navigate to a new page. That is when you use navigate.to, right? So it helps to understand it better when you take it from the automation and the manual perspective. So whenever you're learning automation, always keep manual perspective in mind because at the end of the day, uh, what is automation? What is automation testing? Anything that you were doing earlier manually, now you're doing this using a system. So the system's method to do the same that you're doing manually is automation, right? So when you have that reference in your mind, it helps better to understand. Okay. Then the next question is, what is the difference between implicit and explicit wait? So very quickly, implicit wait is something that tells the web driver to wait for a specific amount of time before throwing an exception, right? Whereas an explicit wait is a conditional wait that allows you to specify condition to wait for before continuing with the script. Now, of course, I just read the definition and you might question that, you know what, we could have read this as well. Why don't you explain? So let me do that. So I'm going to sort of give you an example. So very quickly, just let me pull up the notepad. I think that will help you better. So just give me a second. Mm, 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 mm. Cool, cool, cool. So here is the notepad. Let me magnify or increase the font. So the the steps to a test case are navigate to Salesforce, right? Login using credentials. And then it says maybe click on the opportunity button. That's all. And one more step which says click on the new button. Perfect. Cool. Now, first, let's talk about implicit. What implicit does is if I declare the time as 3 seconds in implicit, that is implicit wait, I'm going to write here as IW. If I give the time as 3 seconds, it is basically going to wait for 3 seconds before every step, right? So basically 3S here, right? Then 3S here, then 3S here, and then 3S here. So basically, this time is applied globally before each and every step. 3 seconds, right? Uh, that is implicit wait for you. Now, one thing that you should know is that if this particular step, let's say step number two, is executed in less than 3 seconds, that it's not going to wait for the entire 3 seconds. This is the question that is asked a lot. That is, okay, you apply implicit wait of 3 seconds, and if the page loads or if the action happens within 1.5 seconds, is Selenium going to wait for the entire 3 seconds? No, not at all. 3 seconds is basically the maximum for it. So it is more of less than or equal to 3 seconds wait. I'm sorry, less than or equal to 3 seconds wait, right? That's that. So that is implicit wait for you. Now, explicit wait is again, if I apply 3 seconds, right? Explicit is that when you specify something explicitly, that is there's a condition attached to it, right? So condition is basically you say okay, that until and unless this particular input box is not visible, do not enter the data, right? Which is a valid scenario. So if you say that until and until the full name field is not visible, until the full name field is not visible, maybe do not enter the data. something like that, right? Or maybe it says until the button login is not visible, do not click, something like that, right? You might feel that, okay, manually who would do that, what crazy person would try to click on something when the button is not visible? But systems are not that smart. You have to give them the all the possible permutations and combinations. Cool. So uh, explicit wait, all in all, is something wherein you have to make sure that your time is coupled with the condition. So if the condition satisfies, then only the execution will happen, or happen after a couple of after the mentioned time, right? So that's that. That's explicit wait for you. I am going to give you a small task here. The task will be that you share the syntax for implicit and explicit wait in the comments. Let's see how your understanding is, because we have discussed this in our Salesforce automation testing playlist in detail. Uh, of course, you have watched this such playlist, not even mine. That's okay, but you have the knowledge. That's why you have come for the interview questions per se. So your task is that you share your syntax around implicit and explicit waiting comments. Right? If you don't remember, that's fine. Nobody is going to ask you to remember anything. It's just that uh, I want to know how you're good at getting out the requirements using Google, right? Google is your best buddy, by the way. Cool. So now the next question, or the last question for this particular video, is going to be, what is the relevance of actions class in Selenium? Let me just zoom this. So actions class, folks, is basically it covers a set of methods which are something that you do manually, and these are some specific actions that you do manually. So it basically, there's an automation way to handle, again, the manual way, the automation way. So manually, let's say if I have to go to maybe Google, right? And if I type in here as automation testing, right? And now if I want to select the entire text, that is, the action that I'm going to perform right now on my system is Command A or Control A if you're using a Windows. So how can this be done in automation, right? Then I right click here, doing this manually. I tapped right on the trackpad. But how do you do it using automation, right? If I want to drag something from one point to the other and drop it there, how do you do it using automation, right? So all these different actions that you can think of, for example, double click, click and hold, drag and drop, move to element, context click, that is right click, and then the keyboard actions, that is when you're typing something on in the input box, or when you are pressing the up key or the down key, or pressing the shift key to enter data into caps, right? All these things basically can be achieved using the actions class. The actions class has all these methods, right? The interview question that is going to ask to you will be that if I have to select the entire data in an input box which I've entered, how do I do it? You will say you will use double click, dot double click method. So it will basically press two times. That is, it will press two times like this and it will select the entire data. Then they might ask you, okay, if I want to right click on the screen, how do I do it? You will say, okay, you use the context click method, right? And so on. So, and same for the keyboard actions, send keys, key up, key down. There are more actions, of course, but herein the gist is discussed. You can go and research it more. But yes, the intent is to make you aware that questions from the actions class can also be asked. Cool. So yeah, these are some questions that can be asked. Go through them once again. If you have any queries or any questions, feel free to drop a comment. So yeah, I think that's all. And in the next video, we're going to discuss more questions around Selenium WebDriver interview perspective. Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.